Hey everyone, welcome to another edition. I think this is our 7th or 8th video here for Deebo and the Dunks. Today we're going to talk a little bit of hockey. It's going to be real quick. We're going to talk Gophers. They're finish up their regular season here in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, we're going to talk a little Wild and NHL real quick. This will be a fast video. We'll try and keep it brief and at the same time give you the information that you may need and a little bit of fun. First off, we'll talk about the Gophers. Gophers are currently technically in first place in the Big Ten Conference. It's a unique situation with COVID. And what I mean by that is they're not going to play as many games, all of the teams. Notre Dame's going to end up like 2 games short of everybody. And I believe the Gophers are going to end up with Wisconsin for first place, battling for first place and getting that bye in the Big Ten Conference Championship playoff. And the way that is set up to work, I think the Gophers are going to finish at 22 games played, and Wisconsin's going to have 24 games. And even though the Gophers are 1 point back of Wisconsin, if I understand it correctly, they don't have to have more points because they've played less games. They're going by win percentage or something. I'm not 100% sure. I looked it up. It's even some of the experts are like, I'm not real sure exactly what happens after this weekend because this is the final weekend of the season, the regular season it is. And the reason I mention that is because, winning the division, come on, it's always important to win a conference. It's good for the kids, especially when they're playing through COVID and whatnot, obviously. And any other year, it's also important. Hang those banners whenever you can. Get back where we were. The Gophers haven't been real good the last couple of years. Obviously, with the change in coaches, well, he's done it real quick. The kid from St. Cloud, that's where we got him. He is our head coach. Bob has really turned the team around fast. They're young, and they have a nice mixture of age. They've got plenty of juniors and seniors leading the way, and then they've got freshmen jumping right in and doing great. I think that's super important when you're young, is having that leadership, because that leadership is kind of in a bad spot because, they haven't had a whole lot of success the last couple of years. And sometimes you can lose, your locker room as leaders, your captains and whatnot. But that doesn't seem to be an issue. They seem to be right in line. I haven't seen anything. Their goaltender, one of the best in the country, LaFontaine, he's been fantastic. He's up for goalie of the year, which is, the Gophers don't have that very often. If they had some good goaltenders over the last 20 years, they probably have a couple more banners hanging up as NCAA champions. So having a great goaltender the last couple of years is fun. And this year he may be the best in the country. If not, he's way up there. And considering he plays in an Olympic-sized rink where, scoring is usually a little higher, I think that goes for the defense. I think the defense has really done a good job, and I hope that continues. I hope that we continue to have that point where, we can stay steady on defense, keep that goals against down, and keep scoring goals. A lot of our leaders, the Ben Myers of the world, are doing a fantastic job. We've got some youth going on. Sammy Walker, McManus, all those guys are having good seasons. They score a goal every weekend, maybe 2 or 3 every weekend. It's been fun to watch. And I understand a lot of you Gopher loyalists are torn. We still miss the WCHA. We miss the St. Cloud States, the North Dakotas, the UMDs. It's just not the same. Colorado College, Denver. We had such great rivalry. Minnesota State, can't miss them. It was such great rivalries. It was the best, to me, it was the best conference in the country, and it was so much fun to watch as a Gopher fan because every game kind of mattered those last 5 or 6 years that we were in we weren't dominating anymore. North Dakota and all of the other, conference. Minnesota State obviously was a powerhouse the last few years of the WCHA, and St. Cloud State, of course, was really starting to come around. And it became really fun to watch. And then we found out we're going to move to the Big Ten Conference for college hockey. And, it just hasn't been the same. They did it. I think most college hockey fans understand, Gopher fans for sure understand why they did it. They wanted to expand college hockey. They wanted another strong conference, and they thought, well, we can still have that WCHA, and I believe it's the NHCA, where you've got North Dakota and St. Cloud State, and then in the other one you've got the Minnesota State kind of dominating that conference with Bemidji State, I believe. And it's just not the same. I don't know how it is for a St. Cloud State fan or a UMD fan. UMD's had a lot of success the last 5 years. They're probably quite content. But I don't know how it is for North Dakota fans. Did they miss those Gopher? We were kind of the cream of the crop. The Gophers were the cream of the crop. They They may not, at least they are in Gophers fans' eyes, right? I mean, I have friends that are North Dakota fans, and I have friends that are Wisconsin fans and UMD fans, obviously. And when they play the Gophers, I believe the players are up a little bit on those teams. They're kind of the king of the crown, if you will. They kind of walk around and act like they're the best, even though the Gophers have only won 2 championships in about 30 years. But every year they were a contender, it seemed like, for about 3 or 4 decades. And as a Gopher fan, you could kind of rest your laurels on that a little bit. And that all kind of fell apart. And then now we have the Big Ten Conference, which is kind of strange. I know I have friends that are huge Gopher fans, and it's just not the same on Friday and Saturday night anymore, especially with COVID. I'm sure it's even weirder without fans and whatnot. But hopefully we can get back to some sort of I know they're disbanding the WCHA, or there's many teams in the conference that are leaving the WCHA. They are starting a new conference. I haven't read much about it, but I did hear about that recently. I thought that was interesting. I think that it's really just a matter of, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's trying to figure out what's the best fit, travel, costs, things like that, fans, attendance, all that kind of thing. Those things matter. Who's your rival? Things like that. I have this dream, like most Gopher fans, that we get back into some sort of form of the WCHA, but I just don't see it happening anymore. But back on the Gophers, what they need, pretty simple. Sweep Michigan and they get the number 1 seed. What we want to do is get that number 1 seed, get that bye, probably play Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. If we win that game, we're getting a 1 seed. We're getting which is important in the NCAA playoffs. They have 16 teams that make the tournament, and that's kind of how it goes. What I find interesting about the tournament, because the Gophers they're going to be a 1 or 2 seed. That's pretty much locked up at this point. Even if they got swept by Michigan, and as long as they win a game in the playoff, they're probably a 2 seed, and they're in good shape. They're in the tournament. They're number 5 currently right now, which is kind of weird. They're behind Bowling Green, I believe. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't even win the Big Ten championship. We end up in that realm of, losing to Wisconsin, say, who is playing fantastic. Wisconsin is mopping the ice with anybody they play right now. They've got them ranked 11 right now in the RPI and pairwise. I don't understand. What are you watching? I mean, they're just obliterating teams 7-0, including the Gophers. So with that being said, I don't understand why Wisconsin's 11, but you've got UMD and Michigan are currently not in it. Let me take a look at the rankings. I was just looking at it the other day. It's pretty interesting. St. Cloud State's just barely in at 14. They call that's kind of like the bottom. The reason you aren't in, if you're in the top 16 RPI and pairwise rankings, is because there are tournaments and they get automatic qualifiers like you do in basketball. So they'll knock out at-large teams, and St. Cloud State could be an at-large team, and they could still win their conference tournament, don't get me wrong. But if they didn't, and it's tough to do, they want to make sure they're securely in there. St. Cloud currently, I think, would be pretty close to in. They would be in pretty decent shape. But you do have Michigan, UMD are out, Notre Dame is out, Omaha is out. These are all decent teams. UMD was ranked as high as, I think, 2 just about a month and a half ago. They've had a tough run of it. I know. I think they swept last weekend, though, so they'll probably start rising up. Obviously, UMD is a powerhouse. They are trying to three-peat, aren't they? I'm pretty sure they're going for a three-peat because there was no tournament last year. And I believe they were back-to-back champions 2 years ago. So that, I'd like to see them in the tournament. It's kind of good for college hockey. We shall see. Again, all the Gophers need to do to win the Big Ten regular season championship, I believe, is sweep. It's more than likely if they go 1-1 this weekend, as long as one of those isn't an overtime win, they'll be in good shape and they'll still get that number 1 seed. It is a little confusing, like I stated earlier. It's kind of odd that we may have less points than Wisconsin, but they'll have 2 games, so we'll have what we call 2 games in hand, and those games, as far as I understand, will not be played. So Gophers are looking good. Great bounce-back season, especially amid COVID. I'm sure it's tough on all the students in every program in the country. I know there are teams that aren't playing at all. The entire Ivy League isn't playing college hockey or basketball or anything else in the winter. And I do know that there are many other teams that have also opted out. Not many, a few other teams that have opted out outside of the Ivy League. And there are teams like Canisius and teams like that out in New York who have only played 6 or 8 games because they've been stricken by COVID pretty hard, or their conference has been stricken by COVID. Go over the top, the rankings right now. If you're interested, and if you're a college hockey fan, you probably are. Number 1 right now is Minnesota State. Number 2 is Boston College. Number 3 is North Dakota. Go figure. Number 4 is Bowling Green. 5 is Minnesota. AIC is number 6, and Boston University is number 7. I think those are the real top competitors. Boston University's only played, I think, 12 or 13 games. They've been hit by COVID pretty good. They missed about a month and a half, but I hear they're loaded. I have not watched them at all this year, but they are loaded. They've got 3 good lines and a good goalie. If they had played their whole season, I feel like they'd be the number 1 team in the country now as far as the rankings go. Doesn't mean a lot when it comes to playoff time, though, as we know. All right, that's Gopher hockey. Let's talk a little bit about the Wild, which is a little bit more fun, right? Mostly, I recorded this entire gig last week before the Wild swept the Kings, and I was already kind of up and up because of how they played against Colorado last week. I think we're on a 5-game winning streak, something like that. Really playing well. Goaltending's great. Kakinen's playing out of his mind. Talbot had a great, decent game the other night. Nice to see him back. Probably going to be a 60-40 split like my buddy was telling me the other night. It's, thinking it's Kakinen 60% of the games right now, and Talbot will probably get 40%, so almost a 50-50 split going down the road. I'm sure they'll ride the hot hand. You don't know what a rookie like Kakinen's going to do. When I say rookie, I mean, very limited experience in the big league. Talbot's a veteran. He's been around for about 12 years, something like that. Nice to have him on the team. He's a stable guy in the nets. Looks good. And he's probably going to have a lot of fun considering that this team has done so well, overall on defense. I mean, I can't say enough about the defense. I've been bitching about our defense for about 12 years, our entire existence to the last 12 years that mattered. And we struggled, before that, I thought we had decent defenders before that, but the last 7 to 8 years, when we've had Dumba and Brodin, and then we had the guys that we traded away and whatnot, I didn't like our size. I didn't like our speed. I didn't like the way they played around the net. I thought they left Dubnyk and the previous goalies hanging a lot. And that may be still true. Maybe these 2 goalies are just playing better and the defense is playing the same. I don't know enough about hockey to say that. But I'm watching a lot more Wild hockey than I have in the past this year. And I see the pairings, if you go over the defensive pairings right now, I see Suter, he's kind of doing what he does. Yeah, he's frustrating. He doesn't get the puck out of the zone when the other team's been in your zone a minute 10, get that damn puck out, whatever it takes, And I see him struggle to do that. I don't know if it's a strength issue at this time, if he's a little injured or dinged up the last couple of years, but I know veteran Wild fans are a little frustrated with Suter right now. I don't know if that'd be true if he was making $4 million. Being that he's making $1 billion on that contract related to a hockey contract compared to another sports contract. It's a very large contract for a defenseman. I think we've got 4 or 5 more years left on his contract. They'd like to see more out of him, and I get that. I understand that. Same thing like Maurer. Maurer would bat .283, and hit 9 home runs, be a good, solid first baseman, but he's making $20-some million, so he's, fans are frustrated. They want more, and they deserve more. Doesn't mean you got to hate him. But the pairings are Suter and Spurgeon, and they look great. Spurgeon's having a good, solid year. Obviously, he took over the captain role with Koivu, moving on and then retiring. And then Brodin and Dumba have been playing pretty good together. Dumba, was injured for a little bit, and I didn't know what to expect him. And when he first came back, I didn't like what I was seeing. But the last week, he's been playing really, really well. And I'm starting to notice when he plays well, this team plays well. Weird. Keep an eye on that down the road. The third pairing is a strong pairing considering with Susie and Ian Cole. Ian Cole's a veteran. He's been on Stanley Cup championship teams. Nice addition, early in the season. Really liked that pickup. And Susie, I think a lot of fans were really high on him last year, and he's been pretty okay this year. When COVID struck the Wild, nobody knew what to expect to him coming out of it. Obviously, it worked perfect for them. They probably got some good practice in at the end of the COVID sessions when they could practice. And I think that they've really responded well. They look fantastic. They look like the faster team every night. Their first game out, they didn't. The Kings took it to them 4-0. They were obviously, their legs looked dead. They didn't look like they were there. They got outplayed. But since that game, when they got their legs going again, in my opinion, I feel like the Wild are the best team on the ice, including they've played Colorado and whatnot, and they've been the best team every night, and that's fun to watch. Hopefully that continues. The lines are pretty set right now. He hasn't been tinkering with them too much. I do know, the number one line is Greenway, Eriksson, Ek, and Fiala, and that has worked really well. Fiala's not having a big year scoring, but he's playing well, and he's dangerous, and I think the other team really concentrates on him and makes sure their best stopper line is out there when he's out there. And you're going to struggle. Unless you're a Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin type, you're going to struggle when they try to stop you, and he's got to fight through that. He's done a good job. He still has his opportunities. Just got to put the puck in the net more, and I believe he will. Greenway's played good. I think everybody's kind of happy with him. His size is great to see out there. I just hope he doesn't turn into a Bukestad as far as speed goes. Hopefully he keeps just enough speed so he can stay in the race, so to speak, when we're going up and down the ice, when they're playing the full rink. He can get lost a little bit because, he's long, and it takes, you got to get that body moving. He's not a defenseman. He's a forward, Eriksson Ek has played great. He does everything. He plays the whole ice. He plays front and back. He plays, goal line to goal line and then corners. He is great. Centers, they don't generally do that very often, but he does, and he really produces for his entire line and for his team. He doesn't get the number one spot very often on the power play in the past, so you're not going to have as many points. It's important to understand that. If you are not on the power play unit, you're going to have less points and less goals and less assists. That's where you get a bulk of your pads. And what I mean by pads, your stats. That's where you get them. And when he's not on that for a long period of time, that's fine. He's playing great 5-on-5 hockey, so to speak. That's fun to watch. The second line is really fun right now. Since Zuccarello got back, and he is just a spark plug. I loved him in Dallas, but I hated him because, Dallas is kind of a rival for the Wild, and he plays well against the Wild over the years. I was glad to see him put on our jersey, and he got hurt early this year, and then, of course, COVID hit the whole team, but since then, he has just been a spark plug, and him and Kaprizov, they look good together. You call him Kaprizov, right? He has done great. Kirill the Thrill. He is so much fun to watch. I watched a Colorado game, the 6-2 win a couple of weeks ago, or I think it was last week, actually. And I was texting with a buddy about the game, and he's unbelievable. I was watching in my package, I can watch any, either the home or away broadcast, and I was watching the home broadcast because we're on the road in Colorado there. And the Avs announcers, now we've played them like 6 times this year, so they obviously know who Kaprizov is. But all they did was talk about him when he was on the ice. They were enamored with him. Between the periods, they talked about him. And I found that interesting that he's getting a lot of notice. The more you see him, the more the experts throughout the NHL see him, the more they're going to be like, wow. There's a reason, and I appreciate this, that our talent scouts and our office and our local media that cover the Wild were so excited and have been clamoring for him to get here, and he's finally here. And boy, he might be better than expected, which is a lot of fun to watch. And him and Zuccarello together, my God, they are just a menace. They're everywhere. They're fast. They're quick. They have the explosion. They are fun to watch. That line is so much. And obviously, Rask is in the middle. I don't know how long he's going to center that line, but he should get a lot of opportunities with those two. The way they work the sticks, the way they pass, the way they work, the way they're a thorn in the other team's side. They forecheck very well. Great line. One of the best number 2 lines, I think, in all of hockey right now. Tons of points the last couple of weeks. They're a big reason why we're on fire, the Wild. Third line is Parisi, Hartman, and Felino. Not bad. Felino has good games. Parisi's a workhorse. He's really transformed his game from a goal scorer, and he'll still score goals, to just doing everything. And he's kind of always done that. He's, again, a lot like Ek. He's all the way goal line to goal line. He works the whole ice. He will go in the corners. He will do whatever it takes. He goes in front of the net. He takes the beating. Parisi, I know that contract annoys a lot of fans, but come on. It's not his fault they gave him a ton of money for a long period of time. I didn't hear a lot of Wild fans complaining when we got Suter and we got Parisi in those giant contracts a few years ago. Most Wild fans were pumped up about it. And I think it's important to remember that. And Parisi has fulfilled that contract, in my opinion. We'll see how he transits, into this part of his career where he doesn't have the speed, He gets injured a little bit more. We'll see how he progresses. He's still got, I think, 4 years left on this contract, so he's not going anywhere. I don't think anybody's taking a trade for him right now. So anyway, that line's been great. Hartman works his tail off. Common theme here, right? Everybody works their tail off. When you've got centermen like Hartman and Eck, you're in pretty good shape as far as work goes. A lot of centers, they're not all like Crosby. They don't all work their ass off, for 60 minutes. I watch Malkin on the second line there in Pittsburgh. Boy, he takes a lot of shifts off, and he has his whole career. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's not Crosby. He doesn't work like Crosby. He doesn't do everything. He, kind of a blue line to blue line kind of guy, an old-fashioned Lemieux type, That's kind of who he is, and it's very exciting to see Wild players work their tail off. I thought we were really weak at center. Most experts probably did, but when you watch them play nightly, shows you what I know. I mean, they look good. They know what they're doing. The fourth line is way too talented to be a fourth line. What I mean by that is Felino is the center on the fourth line. He's one of the best centermen in the game, and what I mean by that is he will be on the ice late in games, late in the season, in the playoffs, taking faceoffs because he's one of the best faceoff guys in the game. When he was in Pittsburgh, he was probably the second best centerman there. What I mean by taking faceoffs, because obviously they had, I forget his name, the old, played about 19 years, most of them for Pittsburgh. He also played with the Wild one season. His brother, Cullen, he was a great centerman. And even when he was a fourth-line centerman in Pittsburgh during their years when they were winning the Stanley Cup, he was there 3 minutes left taking faceoffs because he's that good at the faceoff. He's that good at controlling the faceoff and making sure it goes to the right spot, not just winning the faceoff. Maybe even when you lose the faceoff, you lose it correctly so you can get in position to make a play, get a teammate in position to make a play. Just a great centerman. And I think that Bonino's kind of like that. He obviously learned a lot from Cullen and Crosby. And even a little bit from Malkin. And Felino is he'll be the guy, in my opinion, on a lot of the big face-off spots late in the games. Does that mean that Bukestad and Sturm, who are currently right now on his line, are going to be out there with him? I don't know. I think they'll switch the lines up late in games. We'll see that down the road. That'll be fun to watch. Great. I mean, no way he's a fourth centerman. But he doesn't score a lot of goals. He's fast. He's quick, so to speak, but he's never been a huge goal scorer. His best seasons are probably behind him. He was a part of the HBK line back there in Pittsburgh, which was a fun line with Kessel and him. And Felino, obviously, I'm losing my train of thought there. And who was Hornquist, who is just a monster. He's down there in Florida. I think he's hurt right now, but he has sparked that Florida team, and we'll get into that later. So that's the team there. We've got the defensemen. We already went over that. The goalies, as we all know, are a lot of fun to watch, and I think Kähkönen and Talbot will be obviously mixing it up a lot throughout the season. We'll see who the playoff guy is. A lot of season left to play. We'll kind of watch that as it goes, and I think that's kind of fun. The power play units, I'm not going to go over them. They've been really mixing them up. We're like 29th or 30th in the power play, which is kind of amazing considering our record. They need to fix the power play. They need to figure out who it is. I don't know how Dumba's not on the number one line. Come on, you need that shot. It scares other players. Okay, they don't want to take that damn block. Not early in the season, mid-season. This is almost every night's a playoff game. When you're playing, you have an 8-team division and you're playing the other 7 teams the entire season and no one else. You're playing them 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes. These are like playoff games. And when you got a guy like Dumba with a 100-mile-an-hour shot taking shots, it doesn't matter if he necessarily score. What I mean by that is he's going to put some pucks in some legs. He's going to put some pucks on some arms. He's going to injure some players. Players, they'll play injured, but they don't play the same. I know that's hockey, man. That's how hockey works. When they're blocking shots, because these points matter every night, you want a guy like Dumba taking those shots. If you disagree, I understand where you're coming from, but that's the way I see it. I want Dumba taking shots. Yeah, he's erratic. Yeah, I'm sure he frustrates the coaching staff when he airmails it over the top of the net and has no chance of scoring, and they gather it and clear the ice. I get that on a power play. You don't want that. He needs to be as accurate as he can, but I like him winding up and taking some blasters. I want him taking at least 2 to 3 every power play. That would be ideal. It's a little unrealistic, but that's what I'm saying. That's kind of where the Wild are. I think they have a real good chance to do a lot of damage. I hope they keep this up. I hope that they continue on the same path. I believe they're going to, and I'm pretty excited right now. I haven't been this excited about a Wild team in many, many years. They have a lot of the package, and maybe, in a couple of weeks when the trade deadline comes up, maybe we make a move. Maybe we add, one more player. We could always use a winger. I can't believe I just said that. You ask any of the experts or people that I know that talk hockey or know hockey, they're not. We need a centerman is what they're going to be thinking, But I like our 4 centermen. They're decent, None of them are superstars. None of them are great. None of them are all-stars. But they're solid, and they're getting it done. We're pretty set at wing, so to speak. I think maybe I like where we're at, but I think we could always improve a little bit. When you've got Bukestad and Sturm on there, I don't know. I mean, I love Bukestad. He's a local, hero. He's from Blaine, Minnesota. He's a legend. But he just doesn't skate much anymore. I watched him in Pittsburgh. He couldn't even crack the lineup. He came off a couple of injuries twice, and he could not get back in the lineup. He couldn't help that team. And with his size and strength, I kind of thought, can a guy like him convert? He can play center, and he can play wing. He's a good centerman. What I mean by a centerman, he's not a great centerman up and down the ice right now, but he is a good face-off guy. He's decent, I should say. He can take it for the 3rd or 4th line if necessary. And with the new rules, the way they kick you out of the face-off circle so fast with no questions asked, just quick warning, boom. You need a backup centerman on all 4 lines. You need a guy who can take a face-off, because there's a lot of situations where there's a lot of jostling going around and a lot of gamesmanship going on. So a guy like Bukestad's valuable on that 4th line, and he's got a couple goals. I think he's got 3 goals this year, and he's been around. Again, not on the power play, so he's on the second power play, I believe, but he's not going to get a ton of opportunities there and a ton of extra points. Not a lot of pad points. Hate to hack on Bukestad. Everybody loves him. How do you not? Local legend, like I said, but at the same time, kind of slow, kind of plotty. It's just the way it is, Let's finish up the podcast here with our top 5. Deebo's top 5, we'll call it. That's lame, but whatever. It's what it is, okay? It's going to be different than most people's. I've seen about probably 6 or 7 that I follow on websites, and they're fun to watch, and I like to see them every week. I got to stop saying don't I? It's annoying. I listen to the when I'm editing these things, I'm like, gosh, I got to stop saying It's too much. I think it's a stall technique I read. I feel like I prepare for the podcast, but apparently I don't. Here is the top 5. We'll start down low. I'm going to go just outside the top 5 is Carolina. I like everything I see out of Carolina. Boy, oh boy. Not a ton of talent. Like, I can name like a couple players. I can name Aho, who can't, right? I can name a couple others, but I don't know. They don't have a lot of star power. I think they just always stay under the radar. The only reason I think anybody pays any attention to them over the years is because they did those victory celebrations after the game. At first, I thought they were really cheesy and silly. And I started to see them every night on SportsCenter or whatever I was watching, NHL Network, and pretty damn cool. They were having a lot of fun with that, and it really looked like the players cared, and the fans obviously loved it. Hopefully, I don't know if they're doing that this year with no fans. Probably not. We'll see if that comes back when the fans come back to Carolina. So I got them at number 6, just outside the top 5. Number 5, I think many experts would disagree with what I'm about to say, considering they have Matthews on their team, who has, like, my God, like 18 or 19 goals. He's just absolutely on fire. He's got like 9 goals in 7 games or some crazy stretch like that. Matthews is on fire. Hell of a player, hell of a goal scorer. Top 5 every year the last 3-4 years. Toronto's good. The problem I have with Toronto is they're playing in the Canadian division. There's an all-Canadian division, if you're not aware. It's Montreal, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary. Not a lot of powerhouses in there. Probably not even one, unless you count Toronto. I like Montreal. Just changed their coach. Ton of talent. Again, a lot like Carolina, just a lot of good players, no star power. Obviously, they have Carey Price. That's star power. But he's in the twilight of his career. Still playing well. I got Toronto at 5. I can't put him any higher than that. I know they're going to have a gaudy record and they're going to have a ton of points because they're playing in a weaker division, in my opinion. Could be wrong there. We'll see. Number 4, I have Boston. I had Boston last week, number 2. And the reason I say that, I didn't release that podcast because it was awful and nothing worked out. The audio was glitching in and out. The video was glitching in and out, so I couldn't release it. I think Boston did too, but Boston got walloped twice this weekend. And I thought, well, move them down, okay? And just full disclosure, I love Boston. I think the best number one line in all of hockey. Maybe the Colorado line, the McKinnon line's better, but pick your poison, right? They're both fantastic. So I've got Boston at 4, obviously moving down from 2 mythically. Number 3, could move this team as high as 1, Vegas. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 great lines, not fair. 2 great goalies, not fair. I'm still really annoyed that they got all of these players in this draft, that the expansion draft I'm talking about, and then unlimited funds to sign anybody they want. Made some pretty quality trades, which is just annoying to me. And what I mean by this, nobody should have this much success this fast. This is crazy. They were in the Stanley Cup final their first year. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the Stanley Cup this year. They're just loaded. The fact that they don't have the best record in the league is kind of silly to me. They're not in that strong a division. I mean, it's good. They're in the Wild's division. Wild play them a couple times this week. That'll be interesting. It's a good measuring stick. Goodness sakes, right? Vegas at number 3. Number 2 I have as a kind of a surprise, Florida. Florida's good. I've watched them, I think, 3 times. They're good. They've got Parisi, the old Columbus goalie. He's playing very well. Their defense is playing very well. They're loaded. They are really loaded. Hornquist is kind of leading them I'm talking about as a team leader, he's not scoring a ton of points or anything. He's always in front of the net. He's always putting a stick in somebody's side. He has been a huge addition to them, and I think it's really sparked their young players. They really have built some confidence, and they could get dangerous down the road. We'll see how that rolls. And number 1, I have, this isn't all that surprising. I have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay looked like they were slumping or not doing well. No, they just weren't playing any games. They had COVID issues. They have one of the best records in the league, if not the best. The only team that I think has a better record than they do is Toronto, but they've played more games, and they're in a much weaker division. If you kind of rank the divisions, I don't know. It's kind of goofy, isn't it? Like, it's kind of like, how do you rank the divisions? I kind of thought the Washington, Boston, Pittsburgh, Islanders, Philadelphia division was the cream of the crop. Before the season, I would have said that's number 1. I'm actually going to say that's the number 2 division, in my opinion. I think the number 1 division has kind of moved to that Tampa Bay division. Tampa Bay, Florida, Carolina, and Columbus are solid. They're just solid as hell. Chicago's playing great. They have like 4th most points in the league, 5th most points in the league. Chicago's playing great. And then I'd say the 3rd best division is the Vegas, Minnesota, St. Louis, Colorado. So I'm going to say that's number 1, though. That's how hard this is. I thought the Boston division was going to be, and I'm calling these divisions, they're like the East, the North, the Canadian, and the South or something. I don't even know what they're calling them. The West, excuse me. But I would still rank, as I'm thinking this through, I'll still stay with that. I'll still say Tampa Bay's got the number 1 division right now. Number 2 is Boston. Number 3 is the Vegas division. And then number 4 is that Canadian division. It's Toronto, solid, good team. Edmonton, come on, star power galore. No goalies, no defense. I mean, jeepers, every night it seems like it's 5-3 with that team, either one way or the other. There's no lead safe with Edmonton. They're down 3-0. They can come back and beat you. They just did that last week. They're up 4-0. They can blow that lead in a heartbeat. They can blow that lead in one period like they did earlier this year. They struggle there. Winnipeg's kind of up or down. The trade with Laine, going to Columbus is interesting. We'll see how they play throughout that. Sounds like he had kind of worn out his welcome there in the locker room. A little surprising. We'll see how Winnipeg's playing decent. Montreal, I told you, they're dangerous. We'll see how they progress throughout the season. They do have a new coach. Calgary, Vancouver, and Ottawa, that's the round out that. So you know what I'm saying there? It's not a ton of star power, not a ton of talent there. I see that as the number 4 division. Yeah, you argue all you want. These could be dead wrong. Some would definitely say the East is the strongest. I get that. And some would say even the what are they calling it, the North? Excuse me, the West. And that's the Vegas, Minnesota, St. Louis, Colorado division. I think it's just 4 teams. I don't see, the Kings, Arizona, Anaheim, or San Jose doing a whole lot of damage. I think the 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs are the top 4 right now in any order. You got Vegas, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Colorado right now. Well, that can change in 2 days. they're all so tight. It's 25 points down to 23. It depends on games played. Some have played a couple games less, like Colorado and Minnesota. I think St. Louis has played the most. So, there's going to be big battles. We have a ton of games, the Wild, coming up against St. Louis. We still got to play them 10 times. Hopefully St. Louis is staying around where they are now and don't get hot, because that team's still very good. The fact they're not in the top 5 is kind of scary. And Colorado also, they've been erratic. They had 4 games against Vegas though, so probably beat them up a little bit. And the Wild have played well. They're 3-3 against them. Hopefully that continues. That'll be fun. I mean, if we can play with Colorado, I think you can play with anybody. That first line is, holy moly, they come at you. And they got Grubauer is a great goalie. Some argue he's the best goalie in all of hockey. So we'll kind of see where that goes too. That's all I have for my hockey podcast. Forgive me if I'm ignorant, okay? I've just fallen back in love with hockey the last few years. My youngest son was playing it for a while and, got me back into hockey. At least the game of hockey, I should say. I never played the game of hockey as a kid. I played hockey every day on the pickup rinks, so to speak, around the Circle Pines area. Did the warm house routine, always out there. Loved it. But never played it, but I always loved it. And then kind of let it go. I'm more of a football guy, Played basketball when I was younger and in high school. Not very good, by the way. My friends would say I was great. Right? And they'll get that joke. I just loved hockey since the beginning, and then when my youngest son started playing it, I just, you fall back in love with him. My oldest son loves hockey. He's a pretty damn good skater. He's 20. He loves to go around the rink, and he when he comes home, all he does is want to skate. He's just a skate machine. He watches the Wild almost every time they play. So, when your kids are into hockey, it draws you back in if you already liked it. Even if I didn't like hockey, I'd have to pay attention to it because my sons love hockey. And I always loved it. Don't get me wrong. It's just, your life kind of takes you on. You got more important things to do, You got work and bills and all that kind of stuff, and you just kind of move around it. But at the same time, it's good to have that in your life. That's what sports are. They're a distraction. They're fun. They keep you... they keep you from, they keep you from driving your car into oncoming traffic. You know what I'm saying? They keep you sane. That's why I think last year when COVID was absolute at its tippy top and sports came back, I think a lot of men and women in this country got a little sanity back when they just once in a while for an hour or so, they could watch a little baseball, football, basketball, hockey, whatever turns you on. And I think that's important. So love hockey. Let's talk soon. Everybody have yourself a great day.